SA Harvest is breathing a sigh of relief. Its bid to ensure every South African has access to adequate, nutritious food has received a massive push. It's partnering with BP South Africa to ensure rescued food is delivered to vulnerable communities. Let's talk about this plan to reduce food insecurity with SA Harvest CEO Alan Brody. A very good morning to you, Alan, and thank you so much for your time. One would think that there is probably something in it for BP to be partnering with SA Harvest to be ensuring food security. Why this particular partnership? How did it come about?
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me. Yeah, well, one of the most significant ways in which we reduce hunger is by delivering rescued food to beneficiaries who feed people all over the country. Now, that's done in refrigerated vehicles, and refrigerated vehicles need fuel. And as we all know, fuel is becoming more and more of a significant expense in anybody's book. So BP have very kindly done the deal with us to sponsor our fuel. And this will enable us to get the trucks moving. And every penny saved on what we would have spent on fuel enables us to get meals to hungry people. But the main collaboration is actually environmental, because for every meal that we save from going to landfill, and for every ton we save, we prevent 65 kilograms more or less of methane gas being emitted into the atmosphere. Now, BP are very environmentally conscious, and together, over the next 3 years, we will prevent more or less 1 million kilograms of methane gas from being emitted and causing pollution. So it's a very worthwhile collaboration that will help both feed people in South Africa and prevent emission of gas, greenhouse gas.
Alan, in speaking to an ordinary South African who knows very little but cares very much, please explain what rescued food is.
Okay, so yeah, that's of course the key question, and few people know that 10 million tons of good edible food goes to waste every year in our country, throughout the food chain, from agriculture through to manufacturing and through to retail. 10 million tons goes to waste. Now, it's difficult to conceive of what that means. 10 million tons in our industry, more or less 3 meals per kilogram. So 10 million tons equals more or less 30 billion meals, and that goes to waste. Now, in South Africa, the accepted figure is that 20 million people go to sleep hungry every night, including the horrific number of around 5 million of our children. Now, if you take 20 million people at 3 meals a day, that equals about 22 billion meals a year. So just from wasted food alone, South Africa has a surplus of food. Just if we reduced our waste to acceptable levels, we'd be able to feed all our people. So in a country where there's a surplus of food, that 5 million children go to sleep hungry every night is an absolute travesty of justice and a catastrophe. So what we do is we do our bit to rescue that food that would have gone to landfill and deliver it to men, women, and children all over the country.
Alan, are you finding that South Africans complain every day about the high cost of living and yet don't do much to ensure that it is mitigated, it is dealt with, it is avoided? Because you're mentioning that if at least about a certain percentage of food, wasted food, was rescued, or at least was not wasted, the population would not be facing the kinds of numbers it is in terms of hungry people that go, to sleep every day with no meal. Do you find that South Africans actually do not appreciate the privilege that they enjoy?
Well, when you say South Africans, you're talking about a specific class, and the middle class South Africans. I mean, the vast majority of South Africans are complaining of hunger because they are very hungry. That's the bottom line. And I think that, even the middle class now complaining about prices and costs and inflation, and it's a reality. People, I find, my experience in what we do is South Africans are generally the kindest, most loving people that you come across. And it's amazing how many are moved by the situation and what we do. The fact is that many people are not conscious of the situation, and that's something else. But the bottom line, in my opinion, is that it doesn't really matter what we think. In the end, what we do, obviously the NGO space, without the NGO space, there would be tens of thousands of men, women, and children dying of hunger. And, but in the end, what people think and what they do is, compared to what government could do, is not really that relevant. The government could change the situation in a couple of years by doing a few things, by getting involved, by being aware and then acting on the fact that in Section 27 of our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights, it says that every South African is entitled to enough food and water, and yet that is not being fulfilled. And there are actions that could be done, interventions that could be made, and that we've seen that all over the world, where basic interventions make massive differences. And I'm afraid our government is not acting at all on that. They don't seem to be interested, and they don't seem to really care that so many millions of children are going hungry every day.
We really do hope that that is not the case, and that the South African government actually does care and are somehow, in some way, even in their silence, are finding a solution to this issue that SA Harvest are putting forward here on eNCA. Alan, thank you so much for allowing us to unpack this particular issue that South Africans are facing. That is Alan Brody, who is SA Harvest Chief Executive Officer.